You got one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jordan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the Sales Energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before, each one gets successfully better. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Boom! That's exactly it. Do that. Let's do that. Woohoo!
Boom!
That's what I'm talking about. I am almost embarrassed here today, Chris Stone. Here I'm on the road and I don't have my Samson Q2U. I'm using this little guy right here. Can't even sing the Samson Q2U. So I look like thank goodness our guest is such a rock star that he's going to overtake me. At least we got that.
Listen, you're already segueing. You want to get right to the meat of it.
No,
people are just kind of dialing in. They want to hear the beach stories. But if you're watching on any of the other tubes, the LinkedIn tube, the YouTube, the Facebook tube, the Twitter tube, whatever, the Party Dan is here on Amazon. So and what better place to be, maybe for your first time on Amazon Live, than to hear the buttery smooth sound of Larry Levine's voice and listen to selling from the heart and be able to pick up his book, which is on sale today on Amazon. What a better time to join us. And Dan, there's only one place to go to get to Amazon Live and to see your show, and that is what?
Thepitchman.live. It's .live. Don't do .com. It's thepitchman.live. And listen, a lot of people who watch the show here, I mean, it's not always, consumers are also thinking of ways, Amazon in this world is a new way that a lot of people could earn money. They can start their own stores and go. And when you have a store, that's step one. And then step two is getting people into your store. That's marketing. And step three is figuring out a way to close the door behind them and let them pick something up while they're in the store. And so I'm so pleased to have like a real professional sales guy, a guy that makes it happen so easy, so seamlessly that people don't know what's going to hit them. And so let's bring him on here if you can. Chris Stone, you do a better, we'll do it like this. Please help me welcome, without any further ado, my new best friend, Larry Levine. Come on down. Here he is.
What is happening? I don't know who's had more coffee. It's 9:00 in the morning, West Coast. It's noon on the East Coast. And you have way more energy than I do. And I've had a gazillion cups of coffee. What's the deal?
Yeah, I can't handle coffee. I'm getting zero coffee. I mean, I tried it for a while, up all night. Well, I just can't do coffee. Now, heroin, I'm just kidding. I'm not doing that.
Hey, what kind of show is this, dude?
That's right. We got to get started. So, Larry Levine, my man. Now, Chris Stone, you don't know this. But of course, everyone knows Larry Levine.
Oh, yeah, right.
I went to selling from heart. Is when I say, everybody thinks that they have a bestseller. Oh, check out my book. It's a bestseller. Larry Levine is a real bestseller. So much to the point that I saw him over at Outbound, the sales conference, and he did no lobbying to get it. The organizers of the event looked him up and said, "We need you." And that's where I met Larry Levine. So Larry, enough about me. Let's talk about you. What were your first impressions when you met me?
So, hey, I was gonna bring that up. So I think it was the first day, right? And it was early in the morning, and I had gotten down there just to meet and greet people, and I caught you out of the corner of my eye, and then you had went off somewhere. And then our paths happened to cross like right when people were checking in. And I just walked up and I go, Dan, You go, yeah. You said, yeah. And I go, Larry Levine. He goes, and then all of a sudden your voice just went, what's going on? And you did one of these. And
well, you're always happy. You're always happy when you meet a fellow tribesman in a place like this,
Yeah, where do you meet a fellow tribesman down in the South? Come on, that doesn't happen that often, does it?
No, it's great. So a lot of times, now you're in California, right?
Yeah, I'm in Southern California, just north LA.
I moved from New Jersey and I came down here, and I love it here because people will, hey, hon, sure, take it, sweetie, and all that. Do they do that for you?
No.
No, you see.
Oh, you mean out west? I mean in Southern California?
Yeah.
No. It's it was interesting. I was in Alabama a couple weeks ago, and my wife, when I came home, she goes, "How'd you like it?" I said, the weather was hot and humid. I got bitten alive by mosquitoes. But the one thing that I did notice is everyone is so polite. It was yes, sir. It was yes, ma'am. So it was after a couple of days, the old saying, when in Rome. And before you know it, it's yes, sir. How you doing? Thank you, ma'am. I just slid right into the South, Dan.
That's right. Well, so if I saw you, I would say, hey, Bubala.
Yeah, but here, can I tell you a quick funny story?
Please.
So this is about 4 years ago. I'm in Sydney, Australia with Daryl, my podcast partner. We were speaking at an event, and it was the day before we were leaving. So we're out in Sydney Harbor, and we went to this outdoor bar, but there was no waiter or waitress. You had to go up to a window to order your drinks, which is no big deal. But our table happened to be sitting right next to where the bar was. So anyone who got up had to walk all of probably 10, 15 feet tops. So it got my turn to buy drinks. And I walked up to the bartender and I started ordering. He goes, well, first of all, I can tell you're not from around here. I go, obviously the accent's a dead giveaway, right? And he goes, yes. And I go, just out of curiosity, just guess where I'm from. And we played this game and it lasted all about 15 seconds, guys. And he goes, you're from Southern California. And I go, no way. How'd you figure that one out? And he goes, because this is a tourist area, I hear the word dude so often. And people who use dude are always from Southern California. And I go, dude. Just like that. That's how we greet people. It's dude.
Well, dude is a wonderful word because you can use it in all. It applies into multiple. It's be like dude. It's a completely different meaning. Same word.
I know, but I always catch myself. Sometimes I'll call ladies dudes, and all of a sudden I catch it because it just rolls off the top of my mouth. Because I've been in Southern California my whole life, and I go, dude. And I go, oh, sorry, I just called you dude. And they go, don't worry about it. Right. Heard it plenty of times.
So, that's great. Now, your great thing in terms of, I think you're right, Chris Stone. Dude works for everything. It works if you're asking a question, dude. Or, it works if you see somebody that you haven't seen in a long time and you're not sure it's them.
It goes back to, I don't know how old Chris is, but I think Dan and I are the same genre, right? It goes back to Spicoli at Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Dude.
Yeah.
That's right. Or, let's say you're going to your house and it's dark and you think that there's a killer there waiting for you and you look behind it and you, dude. So you can use it for just about everything. Anyway, but let me ask you this. So what it really is, it's a good way to build relationships with people. You wouldn't, sir and Mr. is slightly different than dude. And so it's a way for you to get that common approach, which is basically your whole game. He wrote a book called Selling from the Heart, and it oozes out of you. How do you make those first impressions so workable?
There's two words that are near and dear to me, guys. It's connect and relate. And I'm a big believer that everybody has a secret sauce. I talk about it all the time. It's something that's deep inside of us. It comes easy and natural. And for me, it was how I connected to somebody, and it's how I related to somebody, and it's how comfortable I made somebody feel. And, I always equate it's my Frank's Red Hot sauce. So I'm just a Frank's junkie. If you came over to my house and I took you into the garage, I actually have a whole box full of restaurant size Frank's Red Hot sauce. And I put that stuff on everything. That's the slogan, but the stuff is replaced by another word. And I'm not going there, right? If you all want to look up the Frank's Red Hot slogan, you know what it is. But yeah, I grew up in a competitive world. I mean, I sold copiers my whole life in Los Angeles. Just a brutal cutthroat industry. And I was in it for 28 plus years. But the secret sauce was I wasn't the smartest sales guy out there. There was people that would outsmart me, out-strategize me. No one would out-care me. And it's how I made somebody feel. And it's that very first impression that I made that opened up the door for really great conversation. And it's no different, Dan, than you and I. I mean, we connected on social. We had some interactions, but we really cemented the relationship when we kind of broke bread in Atlanta a couple months ago. And it just picked up like we've known each other for years. And I think that's what's really missing is, are you really connecting? Are you really, really connecting? Are you leaning into somebody and having a really great conversation? Or are you just blowing smoke up their backside?
Well, how do you do that without, sounding like a creep? Like, how do you get started right there? And do you initiate it?
Hang on really quick, because I'm going to get there. I love the Frank's Red Hot sauce. Go buy some Frank's Red Hot sauce because you can put that on everything. But no, I mean, seriously, you bring up a good point. So continue. Sorry.
Well, no, that's it. I mean, you just gave me an example. You're the Frank's Red Hot sauce guy. For me, if I'm you, that would be my calling card. I mean, I would put my label on Frank's Red Hot sauce, get this off, put that thing, and that's my card. You should give them out at all your, so I'm giving you ideas, but that's an icebreaker.
Hey, that's a good shtick. That's a good shtick, by the way.
Yeah. Listen, I'm sick when I'm too sick to shtick. Okay. So I'm a big fan. So you are, where was I going with this? You're starting relationships that way and you're keeping it going. But how do you do that? How do you dig deep in somebody without sounding like a creep?
I call it the first word that comes to mind is comfortable. So just y'all follow along with me on this one is, again, it just goes back to the connectability. And I just think it was my sixth sense still to this day is I just love meeting people and I love the whole art behind conversations. And I'm going to use the word comfortable and just follow along with me on this because it opened the doors to some amazing conversations at executive levels like no tomorrow is, Dan, I'll just use you as an example since I'm looking at you is I knew mentally, and it's a mindset thing more than anything else. And you got to be comfortable and you have to be confident with yourself. And the other thing is you got to be courageous in how this comes across is the more comfortable that I can make Dan feel. Stop and think about this for a moment. The more comfortable that I can make Dan feel about me, the more comfortable he is going to be in sharing uncomfortable things that are going on in his business. So let's stop and think about that for a moment. Is the hardest thing, I believe, in just a cross section of talking with young and inexperienced salespeople, all the way to the most tenured enterprise salespeople. If they're open and honest, they're going to say the hardest thing that they do is how they open up conversations that transition to more conversations. But I knew that because I was really cognizant of the sales teams and the bullpens that I was involved with, is I would start watching and I'd pay attention to how they're opening up conversations, whether I was out riding along with them or I was listening, right? In sales bullpens, you can only listen to all the kibitzing that's going on. And for all you guys who don't know what kibitzing is, just go look it up in the Yiddish dictionary online. So, but I would see that, all these people, when I say all, vast majority open up conversations that are product centric, that are sales centric, that are solution centric, company centric. And quite frankly, nobody wants to talk about it.
Right.
However, the more comfortable I can make somebody feel, I just flipped it all around. The more comfortable I make Dan feel, the more I open up, the more I understand what makes Dan tick. We live in this world today where I can find something about Dan and Chris in 2 seconds. I just got to put forth the effort.
Yeah. So what does that sound like for somebody who's selling copiers or selling a product-centric type of a software product? What does that sound like in your opening? How do you open that up?
So it's interesting because the way I'd open it up is totally different than anyone's. And I've gotten to some serious disagreements over this. The first 5 minutes of a conversation, I don't care if it's a Zoom call, a phone call, a face-to-face call, whatever that call is, the first 5 minutes is going to make or break what happens next. And let's just stop and think about this for a second. So usually, when I say usually, I mean, I can almost say a vast majority of the time, most salespeople open up that conversation with a little bit of small talk, and then they go into company-centric discussion. Happens almost all the time. How do I know? Because I ask salespeople all the time when I'm role-playing with them. Stop for a moment and think about the first 5 minutes of that conversation with somebody. And here's the rules when we're role-playing. You can't talk about yourself. You can't talk about your company. You can't talk about your product. And you can't talk about your service. Now open that conversation and you can hear crickets. So when I would open up conversations at executive levels or mid-level executives level, I would bring in what I know about them, their industry, people just like them I've been working with. And I just get right to the point. Maybe it's because that fast-paced environment I was in Los Angeles, but I'd say something like, hey, Dan, in working with chief financial officers just like you over the past 90 days, we've been working together on these 3 things. Point A, point B, and point C. Hey, I'm just curious, any of these hit home with you right now? And if so, which one? Could you care to peel this back and elaborate with me?
That is so good.
And some people are going to go, you do that? And I go, yes. But you got to be able to deliver it with clarity, with conviction. You got to be confident. Because I promise you this, if you do that, it leads to the small talk. But how many times do salespeople lead with the small talk? The small talk becomes more small talk, that becomes more small talk. And 15 minutes into the meeting, you're still talking small talk. And the person goes, hey, guess what? Sorry, I got no more time. Think about that for a second.
Yeah, that's right. You got to see, people try to do that. I always say go into it to try to make a friend. But listen, it's a lot easier to make a friend out of a customer than it is to make a customer out of a friend. So you want to start with talking about business, and very quickly you get to that small talk relationship. But in relation to them, that's almost word for word with what I do. Does that opening work as just as well on the phone as it does in person? Or is it to be used as one or the other?
It's interchangeable. It's totally interchangeable. And just so you know, I mean, these are the lines. I use them all the time, because I'm calling in to executives, right? Mm-hmm. I have to prospect just like everybody else. So I will call VP of sales, right? If I'm calling a VP of sales, Dan, and you're a VP of sales, I mean, I'll just say, hey, it's Larry Levine. And so here's what's interesting. Is I never say it's selling from the heart or anything like that. And I learned this a long time ago from one of my very first business coaches, because I will tell you this, I was petrified in sales to use the phone. I will tell you that. I'm surprised I did as well as I did in the copier channel, because I'd get sweaty palms and shuffle paper and do what everybody else is doing now to avoid using the phone. The minute I found out about email was my friend, because I was afraid to use the phone. I'm just getting it out there. And it wasn't until my first business coach who really just flipped the switch for me. And it just transformed everything, because he asked me, I'm going to get to what you were saying, Dan, but my very first business coach later on in my career said, hey, Larry, do you have any problem picking up the phone, calling your friends or people that have been introduced to you? I said, no. I said, then what's the problem? He goes, what's the problem with you picking up the phone and calling somebody you don't know? I said, because I don't know what they're going to say. He goes, why don't you just treat them like you're talking to one of your friends? Think about that. So then all of a sudden, I just started picking up the phone, Dan, just saying, Dan, Larry Levine, what's happening?
That's awesome.
Right? And, some people may put a fancy term to that and call it a pattern interrupt. That's just how I speak to my friends. But then I'd say, hey, it's Larry Levine. Hey, Dan, in working with VP of sales, just like you, over the last 90 days, I've been helping them solve problems around growing net new business, increasing client retention, and learning how to articulate their value statement. Hey, I'm just curious, which one of those sticks out? Would you be willing to share? And all that can be done in 10, 15 seconds. But it's changing. It's just changing it from, and I'm a big fan of scripts. Scripts form the foundation, but you got to make things your own. And you have to be willing. If I'm an executive, I'm going to talk to somebody who's speaking my language and is sharing with me ideas and insights and goes, you know what? That guy, I want to talk to that guy, or I want to talk to that gal, because they're working with people just like me with things that are top of mind to me. This isn't rocket science stuff by no means.
Yeah, so you're using that script and you're making it own, but what you just did is you hardly used the word I, we, or us at all.
No,
you were constantly talking about that.
I'm really cognizant of the word I. Even in emails and so forth, I'll catch myself. And I said, sometimes we have to use the word I. Let's just get over it. But look how many times salespeople send out emails that talks about I this, I that.
Yes, I always tell people those three words will repel your customers. I win, and the three words that attract are you, yours, and I'm in the South now, so we say y'all. And so you say that more often, it keeps going. You see, you don't get that word in California. You can't hang.
Oh, no. Believe me, my podcast partner lives in Arkansas. He lives in my podcast partner lives in Arkansas, so I'm used to the word y'all.
Okay. Well, also tell me about that podcast.
That was how Selling from the Heart started, believe it or not. It was about 4.5 years ago. I'm getting ready to speak at a technology event in Las Vegas. Daryl Amy, who's my podcast partner, was with me. And we're having breakfast. We're having a cup of coffee. And this was a couple hours before I was going to go speak. And I said, hey, Daryl, you want to start a podcast? I'm serious as a heart attack on this one. I go, hey, you want to start a podcast? He goes, what are 2X Copier guys going to talk about that anybody will even freaking listen to? This is April 2017, believe it or not. And I said, I don't know, we'll figure it out. And Daryl goes, I'm in only under one condition. You got to come up with a screaming good name for this podcast or I'm out of here. Go find somebody else. Really? And 30 seconds later, literally, guys, 30 seconds later, I go Selling from the Heart. And he's got a cup of coffee, right? This is water, but he's got a cup of coffee. And he just literally spits the cup of coffee out at me. He goes, where the hell did you pull this name out of? I said, hey, man, you've known me for a long time. Right? I sold in a very hyper competitive sales world. I brought sincerity and heart to the forefront. I built deep relationships with my clients. I even cried with clients. And I believe that's the secret sauce that's missing in sales. It goes, ooh, I'm all in. The next week, we're podcasting out of a hotel in Phoenix, Arizona, because we were somewhere. If you go back and listen to our first podcast, I'm surprised it's still even going. It was that bad. But then 4.5 years later, we've got a podcast that's been listened to all over the world. We've had super cool guests on. By the way, Dan's coming on our podcast next week as we're recording this next Monday.
It's going to break the internet.
It's going to break the internet. However, it's the movement that we've created in a very short period of time. The book Selling from the Heart came out next month. Will be 3 years. And it's been a ride. I pinch and poke myself every single day, guys. I go, I'm just an average guy who just loves what he's doing, but I'm taking 28 plus years of selling copiers and getting the snot kicked out of me. But I'm wrapping it up in a way that made me, me. And I talk about things in Selling from the Heart, and we talk about things in our community that a lot of people think about. but are too afraid to talk about.
So you were selling copiers in a world. Now, these are obviously to businesses and they're big deals. But are there copiers? Do people still have personal copiers now? Like you would,
dude. I got one right. I got one right behind me. I think
What do you got?
Dude, I have no freaking clue.
I bet on Amazon there. You know what we want to do? I want you to sell me a copier.
Oh no! We're going to do that. I've been out of the channel way too long. But I just happened to glance over my shoulder. I'm using a Epson. Crap. WF 3720. But nevertheless, I mean, I sold down the street. When I say down the street,
what does
I
that
sold
mean?
pulling doors, cold calling, and all that. And then my last couple of years, I was calling into Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000 companies in the LA marketplace.
Interesting. That's interesting. So here's something that everybody uses, copiers and stuff, and everybody's selling. How do you get into those Fortune 500 companies? How do you get into big name companies?
I will tell you this. It was 2006, 2007 is when the light switch was turned on for me. I'm 56 years old. So
am I. Hey, I just had my birthday, August 10th, 56.
Right on. I'll be 57 November on November 19th. But my very first business coach, and this is going to answer your question, Dan. My very first business coach I hired at 40 years old because I was very successful in my mind, but I was stuck. I was stuck, and I knew I was stuck. I just didn't know why I was stuck. So I remember as plain as day, my very first, I didn't even ask my wife. I wrote a $10,000 check back in 2006 for my very first business coach for 90 days. And what was interesting is about 45 days ago, he was on the Selling from the Heart podcast. If it wasn't for this person, I wouldn't be here today. I know I wouldn't.
Who is it?
It's a very good friend of mine by the name of Ryan Blair, Blair, Ryan Blair. In Southern California. And what he helped me uncover was how to really look internally. When I say look internally, he taught me that the inner work that I do fuels my outer success. He goes, Larry, you're very successful selling copiers. But he goes, we live in this world now where people are hiding behind the phone and email. This was on the onset of social, guys. Mm-hmm. He goes, you got to learn how to start building your brand and changing the way people think about you and your profession. Keep in mind, we're going back 15 years ago, guys.
Yeah.
And he taught me how to walk, talk, and breathe in a digital world back then. And I was willing to try new things. Even at 40 years old, I was willing to try new things because I was stuck. But what it soon opened up for me was a whole different way to contact and connect to executive level decision makers. I was really proactive with how I put myself out there. I was real strategic with it. The same way that I carried myself face to face was the exact same way I carried myself online. I live back then and still to this day by the 3 E's. It's educate, engage, and excite. And those were the things that I was coached to, that I hold myself accountable to, that I coach people to today. Is if we're going to integrate all this to connect with people, you got to engage with them, you got to educate them, and you got to excite the hell out of them into having a conversation with you. Now stop and think about that. And so when I started to flip the switch, it started to open up different worlds for me. And I love connecting. I love connecting to old salespeople that are out there, right? I just love following and connecting to the old people, if they're still around. But I'm a massive Tom Hopkins fan. He's been on the podcast a couple times. His stuff still resonates today. I'm a big Jim Rohn fan. His stuff still resonates today. And this is what I took away from Jim Rohn. This was a long time ago that I applied to prospecting and how I connect to executive decision makers. So there's a classic line Jim Rohn used all the time. Success leaves clues. You guys have all heard that before, right? Success leaves clues.
Yeah, actually, Tony Robbins took it up. Who was
So Tony Robbins mentored under Jim Rohn, and then Tony Robbins has been using it now. So I took that quote, I embedded it in my brain, and then how I coached myself was this: if success leaves clues, then the people that I'd like to do business with, engage in conversations with, are leaving clues. They're leaving social clues for me. It's up to me to listen to those clues.
Yeah.
Y'all follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now so 15 years ago, I just applied the Jim Rohn philosophy of success leaves clues. And I just removed success. And I said, social leaves clues. And the way I was connecting to executives was I was listening to what their company, their people were talking about, and them, the things that they were talking about. And I used that to open up conversations. Now, keep in mind, these weren't business-centric conversations. These were just regular conversations. And this is where people struggle with mightily today when they're trying to connect at an executive level, mid-level decision maker level, is they're trying to connect first on a sales-centric conversation. If we look at it today, we live in this world where we're socially connected and we're digitally driven. Apply the Jim Rohn philosophy to what you do. Success leaves clues, social leaves clues. I double dog dare salespeople and leaders out there, start paying attention to the people that you'd like to do business with. Listen to them. Listen to the clues they're putting out there. Those are the clues that will help you open up conversations. And that's all I did. I just doubled down on listening. And I used that content to pick up the phone, send an email, do something to engage that person in a conversation. But, right, I'm going to poke the bear on this one, guys, is I believe salespeople today are conversationally incompetent. They're conversationally incompetent because, and again, they're products in the environments they're raised in. So, right, I'm going to stick up for salespeople as well on this one, is they're coached and trained to have sales-centric, product-centric, company-centric conversations. Executives today don't want to connect like that. You want to connect and relate to somebody, connect on a human level based on something that's of interest to them, which is the things they're posting. Just flip this around.
Oh, look at that. The evidence is right there. But with something that you said two words, you said one word, and then something that I inferred from what you said strategically you went after these people.
Mm-hmm.
And so secondly, what you did was this isn't a broadcast crazy thing for a million. You've targeted and focused on the particular people you wanted to, or companies you wanted to do business with.
Yep.
And how did you choose that?
So what I did is, again, the stuff's not rocket science. So follow along with me on this one. It's pretty basic stuff, but I just kind of coached and taught myself. This one is I took my top 25, right? So I'm taking everyone back in time a little bit, but I took my top 25 customers and I just listed them by name, right? The names of their business. And then I took it one step farther, is then I go, what vertical market does that company fit into? Y'all follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's an elevator company.
Right. So I had 25 businesses. And then by the time it was said and done, I had them in buckets of 5. And those were not-for-profit organizations, religious organizations, big business, right? Manufacturing, private schools, and I think the 6th one was public schools. And then what I did is I go, okay, here's my 25 customers. They fit in those buckets. Then all I did is I went out and found companies and organizations just like them.
Direct competitors?
Pardon me?
Direct competitors?
Okay. So, right. And what happened is I soon grew my business like crazy because I knew the language, I knew their industry. I knew that CFOs, CIOs in these organizations all run around in similar circles. And I think today salespeople are making it way too tough when they're going about their business. It's right in front of them. They just got to think differently. So I'm gonna throw a word out there. I just call it bucketize, right? I know it's not a word, but it's just funny. Is I challenge sales leaders and salespeople, bucketize, put your customers into buckets based on what vertical markets they're in, right? Find out what commonalities, what do you know about these people? What do you know about them, their industries, their companies, and go find people just like them.
That's great. So then when you make that that comment that you made earlier on your initial approach, the other CFOs of the same type of companies you're working with right now are dealing with this, and this. Am I pretty close to the truth? And you're not lying.
No, zero. And this is, think about it. And the reason why I've said it a couple of times, the reason why I say this isn't rocket science, my dad was a retired rocket scientist for the United States Air Force. So I had to grow up with a dad who was a rocket scientist. And I think salespeople today and their leadership have made this so complicated. It's not. I'm here to tell everybody that your clients are a wealth of information. You want to grow your business? I'll give you a hint. It goes right through getting better acquainted and bridging the relational gaps you all have with your customers. You're out of I always love asking salespeople, what are y'all prospecting for? Hey, I dropped the y'all. Did you catch that?
Yeah,
so
you're a native.
So what are y'all prospecting for? And you literally hear pins drop, guys. And you'll hear after, you kind of poke the bear a little bit, you'll hear people, if they're really open and honest, to say, I'm prospecting for a deal. I'm looking for, right? As we're heading into football season, we're looking for the ball on the 2-yard line. Well, guess what? You're all going to get whacked with a price hammer on that one.
Yeah.
However, sit inside your customer base. Connect inside your customer base. I always have the saying, and follow along with me. And it's a little rhyme, but it does play out. The more you know about your customers, the more you grow with your customers. The more you learn from your customers, the more you earn from your customers. Salespeople, just double down on those. I believe the key to growth in sales is sitting really close to everybody right now. It's how well you build, grow, and nurture the relationships with your customers, and how well you connect the dots and influence the networks sitting inside your customer base. Stop and think about that one.
That's beautiful. I love that. I was in a room once, and somebody went around and asked everybody, what are your goals, this year's business goals? And everybody knew their business goals. And I said, now I want one of you to come here and tell me what the business goals are for one of your customers.
Oh. You're so spot on. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth, Dan, is you can get a PhD. Think about this. You can get a PhD from your current customers. You just got to ask. Yes. You got to be willing to ask.
Yeah. And for them to like you, for them to be willing to open up because you are sincerely selling from the heart. You're just sincerely trying to find out about them.
Well, I totally agree. And here's the thing is, I think there's 3 things. Again, I'm going to poke the bear on this one, but it's to get people to think more than anything. Is we live in a world today where people do not trust salespeople, and rightfully so, because the sales world's done it to themselves. They literally have done it to themselves. And I'm a sales geek at heart, but there's a lack of trust in the sales world. Your buyers and your clients are skeptical about everything that salespeople have to say, and they think you're full of bullcrap. Every conversation that you all are walking into right now, and sorry, people, I'm just sharing the truth, is they don't trust you. They're skeptical, and they think you're full of bullcrap. So how the heck are you going to overcome this when you got 3 strikes going against you in almost every conversation? How about this? Stop acting like salespeople. Connect and relate to them. Bring your heart and sincerity and deep business substance to the forefront, and watch what happens.
Yes. Well, now you dropped the prospecting word earlier as if it's a bad word.
It's not.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, but it is. Now, I love cold calling. If you ask me why I prospect, the answer is because it's fun. I just like doing. I like meeting more people. I like trying to create something from nothing. It's what wakes me up in the morning. I dig it. But even I, who goes into this in between each call, I have to reprogram my head because you're very prone to say, "Ooh, what can I get? I wonder if I could sell them or what they can sell them." In my head, I have to, in between each call, say, "I'm here to give. I'm here to give.
Yeah.
I'm here to give. I'm here to give." And it changes your whole mindset. Why are you calling me right now? Because I have an idea that can help you and your company earn a lot of money. Want to see if we could just start this relationship and see if we can get this goal. I have to retrain myself because it's very human to want to get. Have you ever had Bob Berg on your show?
Yeah, he's been on the podcast. He was on the podcast maybe 3-4 months ago.
Yeah, he's as real as they get.
Dude, super great guy. And you Dan, you bring up a really good point, about this get. Is we live in this get society. What can I get from you, right?
Yeah, gimme.
So I share this. I write about it in Selling from the Heart. Is if y'all want to have an ever-flowing sales funnel, you have to build an ever-flowing relationship funnel. If you want an ever-flowing sales funnel, you must build an ever-flowing relationship funnel. In order to get, you must learn how to give. But here's the problem: is when you bring inconsistent prospecting to the forefront, and salespeople today ride the prospecting roller coaster. Mm-hmm. Right? When the funnel's weak, they prospect, right? They'll prospect, they'll pound the phones, they'll send emails, they'll do whatever they're going to do. And they'll find 3 or 4 people to put in the funnel really quick. And then they stop prospecting. And then they hope, right? Which hope's not a strategy. Then they hope they can close 1 or 2 of those deals. And then when that doesn't happen, they go into a funk, right? And they start pointing fingers and blaming other people. But let's stop and think about it. The number one thing, in my opinion, that's non-negotiable for salespeople is prospecting.
Yeah,
right.
That's a great.
But here's the problem: is salespeople are consistently inconsistent when it comes to any form of business development.
Well, you mean by business development, you mean prospecting?
Yeah. I mean, call it what you want.
Yeah,
prospecting, opening up conversations, business development, right? Doesn't matter. How are you adding things to the top of your funnel, and how are you advancing things out of the bottom of your funnel?
So are you suggesting that people give themselves a certain amount of number? Like when you were selling copiers, or when you were training people for copiers, did you have a daily goal of new contacts?
Yes. Yeah. So it's funny that you bring this up, because I had a really unique position. So about 5.5, 6 years into my tenure, I decided it was time for me to move on. And I went to go help start up a copier dealership in the county that I live in, just north of Los Angeles. And I was their first salesperson, first employee. And about 5.5, 6 years later, I bought in and then formed a partnership with the other couple partners. So I had a really unique position in that I was a partner in the dealership, but I was also their top salesperson. And so I was privy to all the things that other salespeople weren't privy to, right? Because I was in P&L meetings and partner meetings and so forth. And, I had to sit there and pound phones just like everybody else and so forth, which I just thought was ridiculous at the time. But what I did is I set a goal, and it was quite simple. It was like this: is every day, follow along with me on this. And it worked like a charm. I just held myself to certain degrees of accountability. Is I said, every single day, I have to set up 3 appointments somewhere on my calendar within a 2-week period. And those 3 appointments, one has to be with a current customer. The other 2 have to be new opportunities. And I trained my mind around that. So for instance, right? Most people will just do the numbers and they'll pound the phone, right? Make 50 calls, make 75 calls, make 80 calls, whatever it is, right? I just said, forget that. I'm going to become, and this is what my first business coach taught me, is once I became really good on the phone, I didn't care if I made 5 phone calls and set up those 3 appointments. I was done. If I made 5 phone calls, and in those 5 phone calls, 1 was with a current customer and 2 were new opportunities, that was it. I was done. Then I went out in the field and I started to get better acquainted with my customers. You follow where I'm going with this?
That is, you know what, Chris Stone, I've actually learned something here today. This is great. I mean, and it's so simple. Even the son of a rocket scientist could figure it out.
So follow along with me on this. And And salespeople and leaders that are watching, just please key in on this, because this is like reverse psychology. A lot of this is when salespeople are using the phone or email, whatever form they're using to get in touch with somebody like Chris or Dan. And if they pique their interest, right, then they're going to say, hey, can you meet with me? Right. They might say, hey, are you free tomorrow? And I'm keeping it simple for this conversation. Then that salesperson says, yes. I'm like going, if I'm an executive and a salesperson says, yes, you can meet me tomorrow, how full is that person's calendar? So what I did is I just said, hey, these are non-negotiables. Prospecting is non-negotiable. I got to set these 3 things up every single day, somewhere in my calendar in a 2-week period. And when I consistently started doing this every single day, my calendar fills up. I still hold myself accountable to it to this day. Is every single day, me right now, right? Amongst the other things that we do in Selling from the Heart, I still prospect every single day. Folks, I prospect 7 days a week because prospecting doesn't sleep, right? If you integrate all forms of prospecting and you integrate social and email and phone and all that across time zones, prospecting, you can prospect on a weekend. I will tell you this right now. If you all want to get in touch with executive decision makers, learn how to prospect on Saturday and Sunday mornings. And some of you guys are going to go, that's my time. I go, yeah, it is. But I will tell you this, because I do it every single week, is between the hours of 6 o'clock in the morning and 8:30 in the morning, Pacific Standard Time. So you do the math on the other time zones, is I can set up 2 appointments between 6 and 8:30 in the morning with executive decision makers.
That is just money, Larry Levine. Oh my gosh. You know what? You are by far the world's best podcast guest. I mean, just think it is just all you have to do.
Stop.
Throw out a question and let them run.
Yeah. So Larry, I've got something. This is like there's so many what are we calling it?
Golden nuggets.
Boulders. Let's not call them nuggets. The bucketized thing, the vertical, the finding the commonalities. That's super money. But early on, you were talking about working with sales teams, and you mentioned the word confidence number of times, right? And so you've given some practical ways for people to help to build that confidence and think differently. Mm-hmm. How much of it is just going through some reps, getting that experience, and then banking that experience and using that going forward? Or what do you do to work with those sales teams to change someone who is not confident, who thinks they, has that mind junk, that can't pick up the phone, or can't do what you're talking about?
No, I mean, it's you bring up a great point, and it's a serious point. It really is serious. I'm going to answer in a couple different ways, but I'm going to share a quick story, and then I'll peel some things back on this, and it'll become crystal clear. Is last year on the Selling from the Heart podcast, we had Brent Adamson, who was the co-author of The Challenger Sale with Matt Dixon. And I had asked him what, through their Gartner research, right? So if all you guys aren't familiar with Gartner, they do, right? Oh, yeah. They do sales and marketing research for companies like $100 million a year and above across the globe. And I asked Brent, I said, through your research, where are you seeing salespeople struggle with the most right now? So keep in mind, I'm taking y'all back in time 1 year. So now we're the summer of 2020. And he said 3 things. This was really, really interesting. And it plays out straight across the board. Doesn't matter if you're young, you're in the middle of your career, or you're in the twilight of your sales career. He said, through our research, salespeople are struggling with confidence, believability. And I asked him to expand on that. He goes, believability in themselves and their messaging and their self-worth. Isn't that interesting, guys? So to play on what you're saying, Chris, this whole confidence thing this is something y'all got to work on every single day. And that requires practice, and it requires discipline, and it requires determination, and it requires you doing certain things in the morning to clear the fog out of your head. And I'm a big believer that the first hour of your morning determines what happens the rest of the day. The first hour is like the rudder, RUDDER, the rudder, right? For your whole day. Most people just hop out of bed, right? Check their phone, do whatever,
Right.
grab a cup of coffee, hop in the shower, grab a banana, do whatever, right? And if that works for them, fine. But I talk about sales chaos and selling from the heart. That just creates sales chaos. I'm a big believer. You want to start building confidence, transform your mornings.
God.
Clear the fog out of your head. So I'm a big believer in mindset and messaging. And that's how I start my morning off. Now I get up at 3:00 in the morning, Pacific Standard Time, just because that works for me. I learned when my brain works the best and I capitalize on it. But I clear the first hours for me. It's mindset work and it's messaging. I watch something transformational. I listen to a leadership podcast. I don't listen to garbage and junk. And I lay off the news.
Yeah, you see, this is exactly, we've heard this message many times before, but never better than coming from you, Larry. So this is your book, Selling from the Heart. Tell us real quickly about it. And by the way, before I cut you off, we didn't need you telling us about how you grab your banana in the morning, but that's fine.
No,
whatever.
I did. Hey, stop it.
Okay.
I'm not even going there, but
Okay.
I did.
All right.
Only you're. Oh, Dan, come on.
I told you it was coming, Larry. I told you it was
I
coming.
know.
I warned you.
Hey, for all you people who are listening, that one's on Dan. That one's not on me. That's fully on Dan. So I'm throwing that one back on you. I love you, man. But no, when I decided to write Selling from the Heart, and I told my wife and I told Daryl, my podcast partner, the title and what the book was going to be about. I wanted to write a book that's going to pack a punch that I believe hadn't been delivered in a long time. And I didn't know if 5 people were going to buy the book, 500 people were going to buy the book. I didn't realize this was going to turn into a movement around authenticity. But I wrote the book in a way, it was just based on what I observed in 28 years in the Copier Channel, is there wasn't one sales manager that I ever had. And I was on some pretty dysfunctional sales teams. There wasn't one sales manager ever, and that's capital EVER, ever, that said, hey guys and gals, for the next couple of weeks, we're going to take a deep journey into who we are. And we're going to start doing some self-reflection and some self-care and some self-awareness. No one ever did that. And let's just face it, people, sales is tough. So the first half of Selling from the Heart, in fact, the first 3 chapters takes you into who you are. It's all about uncovering who you are. And that means that, right? Because along with the book, there's a self-reflection journal that you can download. And that self-reflection journal takes each chapter of the book and it takes it even deeper. So the first 3 chapters are all around self-awareness, self-reflection, self-care, really asking yourself deep questions. So the first half of the book is all on the inner work that you need to do to become a heartfelt sales professional. The last half of the book, from chapter 6 on, is all about the authentic skills you need to become that sales professional. And to me, there's a big, huge, massive difference between a sales rep and a sales professional. There's gaps in what we've all been going through the last 15, 16, 17 months. It's created a cavernous, it's just a big, huge, monumental gap between sales reps and sales professionals. And I've had people poke at me on this one. And I go, hey, it's how you view yourself. But here's the thing. I'll just keep it really simple. Sales professionals do the things that sales reps find excuses not to do. Wow. It's plain and simple as that. You want to be called a professional? There's a reason why there's professional athletes and there's amateurs. You want to be a sales professional or do you want to be a sales amateur? You got to do the things that professionals do. And that's what we're bringing to the forefront in Selling from the Heart, is we're just saying, hey, listen, and it's a mantra and it's a tagline I use all the time, is I believe in my heart, your clients and your future clients want to connect to and do business with a sales professional who sells from the heart as opposed to a sales rep who is an empty suit. And there's a lot of empty suit salespeople out there, a ton, and they give the sales world a horrific name.
Yes, which also allows you, the viewers of this, and the people who truly want to make themselves better in sales and in life, a huge opportunity, because there's roughly no competition out there, especially if you heed the advice of my man, Larry Levine, selling from the heart. Usually I have something of a wisdom to share to the group when I sign off, but I'm going to defer that to you. If you had to close us down and give us one last, word of wisdom that we can't live without, what would you tell them?
I would say this: learn how to work on yourself. And you're all going to go, yeah, right, pal. I remember this was about 30, 45 days ago, and I'll put a nice little bow on this for all you guys. It's about 30, 45 days ago. I'm working with a sales team because I do deep dive team reads into selling from the heart around my book. And we break, the 10 chapters into 8 weeks, and we really go deep on these, and we record the calls and so forth. One of the sales people had asked, how does all of this inner work help me to become a better sales professional? I said, just be willing to follow along in what happens in the ride. And he just recently called me, he goes, you're right. It does work. So if there's any advice I can give anybody is be really cognizant of how y'all spend the first hour of every morning. Work on yourself, double down on yourself. I'll throw some RE words out there. Re-engage with yourself, re-educate yourself, reinvent yourself, right? Because I will tell you this, you want to future-proof your sales career? It starts here. The inner work that you all do will fuel the outer success that you have. If your inner world is all jacked up, right? If your inner world's all out of alignment, and believe me, I've gone through it. I still work harder on myself, still at this point at 56 years old, than I ever have before. I hold it non-negotiable, and it's fueled the outer success that we've had at selling from the heart. But when you run away from it and you throw it in the closet, it'll come back and haunt you. So just, if there's any piece of advice I can give, is be willing to really uncover who you are. Go to those places that might be uncomfortable. It's through those uncomfortable moments that you're going to grow. I'll leave everybody with this: growth and comfort don't sit well together. They don't play well together. They never have, and they never will. You got to break out of your comfort zone. I will tell you one more thing. I'm a massive Steve Harvey fan. Massive. I love everything about Steve Harvey. And I'm watching a YouTube video not too long ago about getting outside your comfort zone. And I can't say it like Steve Harvey does. I don't even want to go down there because he can only deliver his message in his own unique way. But he says that in order for you to get out of your comfort zone, you got to put more air in your bubble. I'm going to ask all the sales leaders and all the sales people out there, if y'all want to grow, y'all got to put more air in your bubble. How many people are willing to put more air in their bubble?
That's awesome. I can't tell you how pleased I am. Thank you so much for joining us. Chris Stone, once again, are you kidding me? Is this guy not awesome, Larry Levine? And for all you out there, just remember there's 3 simple words that you need to do in order to improve your career, and that is buy his book. You're the best on the dude.
Hey,
Go
thanks.
get him today. Stick around.
Go
before
get
we
him.
leave here.